Who are you? What do you do?
Okay. My name is Bernard Carmen, and I'm a resident here in Asheville, North Carolina. And I've lived here for about 23 years or so now. And I'm an audio engineer, I'm a landlord, and I'm also involved in, or I've been involved with local politics and some national politics. And I'm more interested in general in learning about liberty and also educating others about liberty.
What made you decide to become involved in local or national politics?
Well, I always hated politics, but I originally got involved because Ross Perot, when he was running, his insistence to run government more like a private business, productively, intrigued me in general, along with having more than two candidate party choices in an election. But even though he lost both times, he proved to me that it was possible, even if extremely difficult, to garner about 20% of the popular vote or more, running as an unaffiliated or a third party. Then after that, I learned that the Libertarian Party was the third largest political party. I was interested in other choices between other than Republican and Democrat Party. And I learned that the Libertarian Party was the third largest political party, even if very small, or in comparison to the what I often refer to as the duopoly party, being the Republicans and Democrats. And I also heard that the general goal of the Libertarian Party's members was to maximize individual liberty and minimize the power and scope of the state, and that intrigues me. Around the turn of the millennium, I became an executive officer for the Libertarian Party of Buncombe County, and I remained so for the better part of the decade. I then soon realized that the Libertarian Party wasn't positioned to grow really into an effective political party for various reasons. And then I became heavily involved in Libertarian Party reform efforts at the national level, which is kind of interesting. I learned a lot there doing that. But during this time, I learned that since America uses the plurality voting system rather than the score or range voting system, third parties, as you hear that term, third parties, are largely moot. Really, the only way for a new party or a small party to be effective would be to grow large enough to displace one of the duopoly parties. And also during this time, a man named Ron Paul began to catch my attention, and this was during the course of being involved with the Libertarian Party and whatnot. And during the summer of 2007, I became part of the grassroots Ron Paul Revolution, and so I've been actively involved in that at that time and now as well.
How are you currently involved?
Well, since my involvement in the Ron Paul Revolution, I've been concentrating more on liberty itself than just politics as like running for office or something, but I'm learning more about what it takes to win an election and some other various elements of the political campaigning and whatnot. But as I said before, since I was a kid, I've always hated politics. I always thought it was very deceptive and corrupted, but I had no idea that decades later I would also discover that it was far worse than I ever imagined. However, I had worked on one other campaign for a local liberty candidate, Dr. Dan Eichenbaum, for Congress in 2010, phone calling and handing out literature and stuff like that. Dr. Dan is also currently running in the 2012 election for District 11 Congress, so I will be spending energies getting out the vote for both he and Ron Paul. When there hasn't been an election going on that I've been involved with to promote what I call a liberty candidate, someone who promotes the ideals and values of liberty, I've been involved in helping to organize Liberty Asheville, which promotes peace, freedom, and prosperity. And what this is, it's kind of like Liberty Asheville kind of spawned out of the Ron Paul Revolution locally. As our website states, Liberty Asheville is a network for liberty advocates in the WNC, Western North Carolina area, organized to promote and defend the great American principles of individual liberty, constitutionally limited and accountable government, sound money, free markets, and a non-interventionist foreign policy through educational and political activity. So I've been involved with various efforts there.
What issues are most important to you, and why did you feel it necessary to take steps you are taking or have taken politically?
Well, I guess a lot of people focus on just issues, political issues. After about a decade of studying the philosophy of liberty, I believe the single most important issue has to do with educating individuals, especially our young adults, about the philosophy of liberty. As individuals learn about these fundamental truths of individual liberty, the fire of freedom, I believe, will burn in their hearts as it has among various individuals throughout all of human history. As one grows to understand this philosophy of liberty, one will begin to better see the true social, political battle versus the false one, which I view as the true socio-political battle being collectivism versus individualism, as opposed to liberalism versus conservatism. I believe that collectivism is a philosophy that leads people to under tyranny. It leads to the road leads to tyranny, while individualism leads to freedom. The false dichotomy of liberalism versus conservatism, I believe, is merely deception and distraction from the true dichotomy. The true dichotomy, again, being collectivism versus individualism. As long as the masses are concentrating on the false one, they really won't see the true one, and the seeds of divisiveness are sown, as we see continually growing, this spirit of divisiveness in America between supposedly these two camps. But as the masses are revealed the true dichotomy, the true battle going on, which is really about liberty versus tyranny, which I believe comes from the battle of collectivism versus individualism. As the masses are revealed this, the seeds of unity are sown as individuals continue to better see the light of liberty and jump on board. Next to these, other largely unknown issues I believe should be taught, the things that I've been getting involved with, learning over time, like the difference between plurality voting versus score voting or range voting, which is used in most things other than the political arena. We pretty much use range voting or score voting in every other system except for politics, which is interesting. As opposed to score and range voting, plurality voting leads to a two-party system. And so long as we have plurality voting in America, we will be doomed to a two-party only system, where if we used range voting or score voting, we could actually have more than one party exist and actually be effective in the political process. Other issues I think that should be taught is the purpose of the Constitution, which is actually being to limit and hold the government accountable for its actions. The government has been trampling over the constitutional limitations for a very long time now, and most people still don't understand that. And there are ways in which to deal with that, especially regarding the Forgotten Clause, as it's known. It's a quoted kind of thing. It's the First Amendment right to petition for redress of grievances. As you know, the First Amendment has a few different facets, and most of the time we talk about the First Amendment, the facets that are focused upon are freedom of religion, freedom of press, speech, but there's another, and assembly, but there's another factor in there that has never been ruled on at the level of the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court refuses to rule on it. It's the last 10 words, which has been known as the Forgotten Clause, but it's also known as the Accountability Clause. And that's something that I've learned a lot more about, and I try to teach people more about. Also, other issues like ethical banking practices versus fractional banking, and the abomination known as the Federal Reserve, which I think more and more people are starting to learn about right now with both the Ron Paul campaigns, the 2008 campaign and the current one. He pretty much single-handedly took the Federal Reserve issue, which has been something that's been under the surface for a very long time, and brought it to the mainstream, which is fantastic. So these are some issues that I think that these are most important to me, and the ones that I try to focus on.
What are some specific issues that you have personally taken on, and what are the results of that effort?
Well, I've been involved, of course, besides the Libertarian Party over the past several years. I've really tried to be involved with the promotion and education of all these such issues that I'm talking about with you. I learned a lot of this during the course of my involvement with the Libertarian Party, but I've also been involved with the Revolution, Ron Paul Revolution, with Liberty Asheville, which again is a local network, and the Asheville Tea Party for a while. I spoke at some various events, including the Asheville Tea Party events, Ron Paul Revolution events, about a lot of these issues that I'm talking about. I've also attended various events over the years, including a recent socialism as alternative to capitalism gathering at UNCA, which was interesting. An anti-capitalism Ayn Rand movie a couple of years back. It was a movie and discussion that was held at the Firestorm Cafe downtown. And also around that time, maybe after that, I can't remember, there was a socialized medicine forum or socialized healthcare forum at UNCA, and there was discussions that followed for weeks on. And those are some events that I was involved with, along with striving to educate folks about the fundamentals of liberty and the true battle between liberty and tyranny. In attending such events, we've tried to help dispel many deceptions. For example, the myth that, and this is very popular recently, the myth that capitalism has existed in America over the last century or so, and the misplacement of blame. Most of the anti-capitalist crowd we've embraced locally are under the perception that the free market is to blame for our economic woes, when the truth of the matter is that having a free market in the latter half of American history we've had, as opposed to a free market, we've really had some kind of combination of socialism, fascism, and corporatism. Corporatism is a term that is otherwise known as corporate welfare or crony capitalism. It's not capitalism. It's not free market. It has to do with the government created corporations, and then the people running the corporations get in bed with government, and oftentimes have, like maybe a few years, they'll be executive of a corporation, and then the next few years they'll hold some office in government, so they'll pass laws that help their own corporation, and this is a vicious cycle. So that's one thing known as corporatism. It's one of the terms that's been coined. I don't know if Ron Paul coined that or if it's been coined by somebody else, but he uses it a lot, and it's true. However, capitalism only exists in a free market. That is, one which the state does not interfere or intervene in contracts between free individuals. So what I like to call Neo-America. In Neo-America, the state itself has managed to intrude into nearly every market. Therefore, capitalism simply doesn't exist here, and those who are not happy with our current economic condition ought to really place the blame where it belongs, which is a lack of a capitalistic free market. So these are a lot of the areas lately that we've been talking about, and there's a lot of people that are getting involved, especially with the Occupy crowd going on now. You have Peter Schiff going down there holding up a sign that says, I'm the 1%, let's talk, and he's going to try to explain the reality behind all this that a lot of people just don't seem to be grasping. And other people like Bob Schultz of the We the People movement, who's been focusing on the lost or forgotten cause that's supposed to hold the government accountable. He's been going in there too, and the results of these efforts of getting involved with all these different things, I really don't know exactly what has occurred, as a result of all these efforts, but it does seem like there's a momentum for the understanding of liberty and the drive for liberty that continues to grow. So I really think that, it seems like, to me anyway, it's something that's worth doing. Like I said before, especially with the Occupy events that have been going on, this has given another opportunity for liberty advocates to help educate the masses who have been misguided by the media, public education, and certain Hollywood stars that you might be familiar with. Michael Moore, for example. But anyway, I hope that answers the question.